Hi everyone, happy Tuesday. I hope you all are doing well. For the last 6 weeks, I've been talking about a different principle of Catholic social teaching each week, and this week I'll be wrapping up the little mini video series with the 7th principle, which is care for God's creation. So I'll start with the USCCB's excerpt on this principle. They say, "We show our respect for the Creator by our stewardship of creation. Care for the earth is not just an Earth Day slogan, it is a requirement of our faith. We are called to protect people and the planet, living our faith in relationship with all of God's creation. This environmental challenge has fundamental moral and ethical dimensions that cannot be ignored." So before talking about our responsibility to care for God's creation, I want to touch upon a few points about creation itself that I think is fundamental to understanding our responsibility towards it. So those two things are, first, creation as a relationship, and second, creation as sacramental, which means that in encountering creation, we encounter more than simply just the visible reality that we see. So God created the world out of nothing. Creation wasn't something that God had to do, but it was a free choice that God made. His gift of creation is an utterly free and selfless and intimate gift. This gift is given in and through His overflowing love. So I often find myself thinking about creation as a specific moment or thing that happened at one point in time. But the theologian Janet Soskis invites us to see creation not as a historical event to be studied, but as an ongoing and intimate relationship between creature and creator. God's creation is not something that He simply brought into existence and then disappeared from. Rather, it's a continual relationship of dependence. You and I are here, we exist right now because of God's choice to hold us in being at this moment. Janet Soskis says, if God ceased holding the world in being for a moment, it would not be. So we are utterly dependent on God holding us in being. And this is true for the entire created world. All of creation is in an ongoing relationship with our Creator. And in a particular way, God endowed human beings with a special task in creation. He gave us the special role of caretakers of this gift of creation. The Catechism states that God willed creation as a gift addressed to man, an inheritance destined for and entrusted to him. And so with this great gift comes a great responsibility to protect and care for the natural world. So the second point, because creation is an ongoing relationship with God, it follows that every time we encounter creation, we are encountering our Creator. The Catechism again states that God is present to His creatures' inmost being. We are therefore called to encounter the world and see beyond that which is visible, to see the world sacramentally. Seeing and encountering the world in this way really orients us towards respect and caring for and wondering at the created world. This kind of makes me think of an assignment that I once had for a class. It was called the Tree Project. So the assignment was we picked one tree somewhere on campus, and once a week we spent about 10 minutes just sitting next to the tree and just observing it. And I think this probably looked kind of silly to the people who were walking by on their way to class, but it was an assignment that was really meant to cultivate this sacramental view of the world, to cultivate wonder at the natural world and kind of this depth in encountering more than simply the visible world. I think we walk through the world so quickly sometimes that we tend to miss this sacramental dimension and miss what the world is revealing to us. St. John Paul II notes how a lack of this sacramental view of the world is really closely tied to the ecological crisis that we're facing. He says, people lack that disinterested, unselfish, and aesthetic attitude that is born of wonder in the presence of being and of the beauty which enables one to see in visible things the message of the invisible God who created them. Like St. John Paul II says, a lack of this sacramental view of the world has really profound implications on how we live out our responsibility to the world. There are many ways that we can see the ecological crisis in the world around us, from unprecedented climate change to a rapid loss of biodiversity to threatened natural resources, just to name a few. So what is the call to action for each of us? I'll share a quote from Pope Francis's well-known encyclical Laudato Si that speaks to the challenge that we face. He says, "The ecological crisis is also a summons to profound interior conversion. It must be said that some committed and prayerful Christians, with the excuse of realism and pragmatism, tend to ridicule expressions of concern for the environment. Others are passive. They choose not to change their habits and thus become inconsistent. So what they all need is an ecological conversion, whereby the effects of their encounter with Jesus Christ become evident in their relationship with the world around them. Living our vocation to be protectors of God's handiwork is essential to a life of virtue. It is not an optional or a secondary aspect of our Christian experience. So I think it's so important that Pope Francis notes that our ecological conversion consists in allowing our relationship with Jesus Christ to impact the way we encounter the natural world. So theoretically in this video, I could have kind of given you a list of practical ways to live out care for creation, but you all are Oregonians. I think you probably know many of these things. And so instead, I really wanted to emphasize this fundamental idea that true conversion must be rooted in a renewal of how we understand our relationship with God, how we understand our relationship to creation, and our vocation to be caretakers of this great gift. So this week, let's reflect on our relationship with the natural world. Do we slow down and appreciate the gift of creation? Do we allow ourselves to sit and wonder at the reality of God's goodness in the world around us? These are just a few questions to think about over the course of the week. I hope this was a good introduction to the principle of care for creation. Thanks so much for watching today, and hope you have a great week, and I'll look forward to talking with you again soon.